I'd like to welcome you. After many delays and uncertainties, I'm so glad we're finally able to get together, find a way to celebrate the President's Award for Excellence awardees this year. First, I'd like to recognize to my right, to your left, the Cranberry Quartet of Chloe Chin, Sophia Yang, Tomas Serna, and Rachel Voss for providing today's music. Very impressive and talented students, thank you. As you know, I retired from Cranbrook in June, but I'm hosting this event because you were the last class of the President's Award recipients that were selected during my tenure. I'm honored to be here and grateful we can celebrate you as recipients of the President's Award for Excellence. As we move forward, the responsibilities of this special event will now reside with Cranbrook's current president. And I'd like to offer Amy Claire Roche an opportunity to say a few words before we get started today.
Thank you, Dom, and congratulations to each of you on being selected by your colleagues as outstanding members of this community. What a privilege and honor this must be for you. It strikes me that we at Cranbrook have long been surrounded by excellence since it was first founded by George and Ellen Booth. Thank you for extending through your dedication and tireless service to Cranbrook the tradition of community building that the Booths inspired. Dom has said before that selecting the recipients of the President's Award for Excellence is not an easy task. Know that this is a responsibility that I will take seriously. It is one that I am honored to embrace. I look forward to today's celebration. Again, my sincere congratulations to you, Rita, Michael, Carolyn, and Cindy on this spectacular recognition.
Thank you, AC. This is the 32nd year we have celebrated one of Cranbrook's most special events. This was always one of my favorite events because it recognizes and honors people who mean so much to Cranbrook. As you came in today, you may have noticed the board out in the lobby that contains the photos of 35 recipients thus far that I have the pleasure of awarding during my tenure as president. Recognizing Cranbrook's most excellent volunteer leaders, faculty, and staff. The level of commitment and dedication that is shown not only by the President's Award recipients, but by all Cranbrook faculty and staff is so special and heartwarming. First, I'd just like to take a moment and recognize my wife, Erin, who has supported me patiently over the last 13 years while as Chief Operating Officer and President, attending countless meetings and events. We both enjoyed attending this event so very much each year. So thank you, Erin. I'd also like to thank and recognize landscape crews and the House and Gardens Auxiliary volunteers who have worked tirelessly to keep our grounds looking so beautiful. Thank you so much for your dedication. So as we move forward in the program, everyone please continue to enjoy the food, don't stop eating, and refreshments during the presentations. AC tells me next year we're going to have wine at this event. Off script, right? So we always begin this event by acknowledging Dr. Lillian Barter, President Emeritus of Cranbrook Educational Community. Without her insight and support, we would not have this event. In 1989, Lillian established the President's Award for Excellence. Later, she and her husband, Don, created an endowment to ensure that it would continue as a way to recognize and celebrate excellence within our community. I'd like to share with you Lillian's thought on the origin of the celebration. And I quote, "Those of you who were here during my tenure know that I spoke often of the importance at Cranbrook of people, program, and place. Those of you who were here remember that also, for me, though people, program, and place were important, the greatest of these clearly was people. People are the essence of Cranbrook's soul. And so, our thought was to create an event to recognize Cranbrook's people. Importantly, people meant all people. You will notice that from the very first year, we included exceptional individuals representing many aspects of Cranbrook's life. All needed to be excellent and work together to fulfill the Cranbrook promise. I know that Lillian appreciates the fact that we have carried on the tradition of recognizing all members of our Cranbrook community, whether they are board members, CEC staff, or volunteers. Each year we videotape this event and share a copy with Lillian. So, a little bit corny, but I'd like everybody to look to my left and say to Lillian Barter, "Thank you, Lillian." Thank you, Lillian. She's still very much a part of the Cranbrook community, and we are grateful for all she and Don have done. Thank you for that. The idea to recognize recipients of this distinguished award with a bench came out of a conversation that Lillian had with one of the very first award recipients. As explained by Lillian, and again, I quote her, "We wanted also to have some way to recognize each year's awardees for their permanent contribution to Cranbrook. I asked the first year's awardees to work with me on the means to do just that. We had many suggestions, but the one that held the day was Charlie Shaw's suggestion of a bench. The campus then needed some places to rest and take in Cranbrook's beauty. Our idea was to begin at the Kingswood Lake and to gradually find spots throughout the campus where benches could be welcomed. Importantly, we had Gary Griffin, our metalsmith at our academy, who could craft such benches with legs reflecting the honorees each year. And so it began. Now let's begin the awards portion of our program. As I mentioned, this year marks the 32nd class of the awards recipients. The President's Award event honors and recognizes the contributions of individuals who epitomize Cranbrook's dedication to achieving excellence. This event is unique in that the recipients are nominated by their peers. Each year, the list of candidates for this award grows, which tells me that excellence is a quality that is inherent in all of our board members, volunteers, and staff. Everybody does true aim high. So here are a few shots from last year's event. It was another great gathering and welcomed past recipients, friends, family, and current and former employees, as well as past and present board members. In March of 2020, we celebrated Teresa Coleman, Mary Beth Hearns, who's with us tonight, Teresa Robinson, and Elizabeth Larson Willoughby. This was the last community event held before we shut down for the pandemic. It was remarkable to me that we pulled ahead this event for some reason, to March instead of April or May, and we're able to have this event. The bench honoring these recipients has been placed in the area to the east of Cranbrook House, above the sunken gardens. You probably can't read this slide. I can't read it when it's right in front of me, right? Thus far, 133 people have received the President's Award since its inception. Let's give a round of applause for all the recipients of this award. I think there are 14 PAE recipients in attendance today. So we continue to invite all past recipients of this award to have their picture taken on their bench. Some of those pictures were scrolling as you walked into the dining area today. We are hoping to capture as many of these pictures as possible for our archives. And I would ask you and encourage you, the award recipients, to contact Eric Franke to make arrangements to have your picture taken on your bench this spring or summer when the weather warms up. This next slide shows the map, another slide you can't see, shows the map honoring our recipients. In orange, highlighted boxes where the 2020 bench has been placed, to the east of Cranbrook House, above the sunken gardens. And the blue highlighted box is where this year's bench will be located, on the grassy terrace to the west of Institute of Science. So before we move on to the next slide, let's recognize some very important people and talk about excellence. So there are very many ways to define excellence. The people of Cranbrook demonstrate excellence every day in the roles they play and the contributions they make. Whether they are a member of the faculty, staff, or one of our many, many valued volunteers. Cranbrook has over 760 full and part-time employees, many of whom stay at Cranbrook 20, 30, 40, and some even 45 years. In the spring, Cranbrook will recognize these milestone anniversaries at an employee appreciation event, an event also started by Lillian Botter. Cranbrook has nearly 160 trustees, governors, and committee members who volunteer their time at numerous meetings throughout the year. I've been to all those meetings. Cranbrook also is fortunate to have over 300 volunteers that tend Cranbrook Gardens and maintain Cranbrook House. Let's give them all a round of applause. So the comments on this next slide were taken directly from the nominations that were submitted by coworkers and peers for this year's award recipients to the President's office. You can see on the slide dedication in the highest level of excellence in all that she does. Collaborative to his core, and understands the benefit of all divisions working together. I love this next one. Unwavering loyalty to Cranbrook. Upholds Cranbrook tradition of excellence. Team player and well respected by peers. Impeccable work ethic. And I love this last one. Imparts calm, confidence, and kindness that all who depend on her. You should be proud of your accomplishments. Congratulations. While these statements were describing this year's winners, the qualities fit each and every one of the recipients that have been chosen in the past. This is what makes Cranbrook so special. Each of today's honorees, in his or her own way, represents the very best of Cranbrook. It's time to meet this year's recipients of the President's Award for Excellence. So they're beginning to look younger every single year. So isn't that true? So in June, a little later than normal, I was pleased that we could gather for lunch at Cranbrook House as a group. I've done this every year because it provides us an opportunity for everyone to get to know each other a little better in a more intimate setting before the event. It's always a very great time for us, and for me particularly. Moving on, as is customary, each honoree has selected his or her own presenter. Let's start with the award presentations with Judy Lindstrom, Gardens Operations Co-Chair for Cranbrook House and Gardens Auxiliary, who will introduce her mom, Rita Ann Lindstrom. Judy?
Hi, everyone. My congratulations to all of this year's deserved recipients, and my sincere thanks to Lillian Botter for creating the President's Award for Excellence, celebrating the very best in the Cranbrook community. Spend any time at Cranbrook and you realize that this remarkable campus is not just the buildings, the art, the gardens, the collections, or the classroom. It is the people who design those buildings, tend and nurture the gardens, create the art, foster the collections, and fill the classrooms. It is also the men and women like my mother, Rita Lindstrom, who have made the Cranbrook experience uppermost in their lives. I am indeed, as is our entire family, over the moon that our mother, this volunteer icon, is being recognized for her 44 years of devotion to the House and Gardens Auxiliary and the entire Cranbrook nucleus. Rita possesses a rare combination of can-do spirit, along with joy-filled heart, a contagious laugh, a thirst for knowledge, and the superpower that makes even the most crotchety person light up when she flashes her amazing smile. Perhaps this all came about from her Midwest upbringing, Lakewood, Ohio to be exact, and parents who wanted her to succeed in anything and everything she put her mind to. Perhaps it was meeting her husband, our father, John Lindstrom, on the library steps of Tufts University, and for almost 60 years traveled their road together hand in hand. Perhaps it was and is the love she feels for and receives from her children and grandchildren. Perhaps it is the profession she chose, a teacher who always gives back, is empathetic, embraces knowledge, and of course, lifelong learning. Or perhaps the day she was born, although Michael, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but the day she was born, the planets aligned and blessed her with patience, creativity, passion, kindness, honesty, optimism, and inspiration. I think, no, scratch that, I know that she envelops all of the above. Rita took that passion and joined the auxiliary in 1978. Right from the start, she knew that Cranbrook, and in particular the House and Gardens, captured her heart. She has held many board positions throughout the years, but her dedication and devotion remains in the gardens, and for 40-plus years, she has tended, coaxed, and disciplined the plants adorning the urns surrounding Cranbrook House. Many of you here know me, and yes, I admit it, I'm a proud Cranbrook volunteer. The one thing I'm most thankful, though, for each and every day is the opportunity to work beside my mother and my best friend, Rita Lindstrom. She may seem gentle and quiet to you, but her heart is filled with words of wisdom, most important, to laugh each day, treat others as you would like to be treated, and find joy in the small things. I hope one day to be half the woman and volunteer she is. Sorry. President Emeritus DeMarco, it is my absolute pleasure to present to you Rita Ann Lindstrom, recipient of the 2021 President's Award for Excellence. Got it?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy. That was lovely. Thank you all for being here today and for the outpouring of congratulations I have received these past few months. I congratulate my fellow recipients for the many contributions they have made to Cranbrook. I can't really describe how surprised, thrilled, and grateful I am to be honored this way. It's hard to believe I'm being praised for belonging to such a wonderful group for which I'm so proud to volunteer. Having my family around makes this experience more meaningful. You may already met my daughter Judy, my sons John and Peter, their wives Cindy and Belika, and my other daughter Pam, her husband Tim, and my escorts Oscar and Charles. As you can imagine, I've been hanging around Cranbrook for a number of years. By coincidence, this year is the 50th anniversary of the House and Gardens Auxiliary. I joined a few years later, and I believe the idea for many on campus then was that we were a small band of industrious housewives bound together by the love of gardening and the mission to remove weeds. But as the gardens looked better and better and finally became beautiful, the opinions changed. In 1978, I became a House and Gardens Auxiliary member. I am often asking, why do I stay? What motivates me? What are my fondest memories? And how do I see the future? I joined because the volunteers and the people at Cranbrook were helpful, friendly, and full of determination. I quickly realized our motto could have been, we can do that and will do that, and still seems to be our attitude today. Last year was an anomaly, but our hardworking volunteers were out in social distancing force to create a reason and purpose for the thousands and thousands of visitors who sought solace during a time of great anxiety. I was ever so proud of all of the auxiliary members who made it their mission to bring some comfort to many. Having worn almost every hat offered to the auxiliary, I am amazed at the people who join our House and Gardens. They come from all walks of life for the sole purpose of working with others in the gardens in Cranbrook House. Perhaps one of my favorite and most proud memories is the sale of our highly successful and award-winning cookbook, Cranbrook Reflections. I think some of you probably still have it and use it. It enables us to set up our ever-growing endowment, ensuring that we'll be around for years to come. For the last few years, many of you have encountered me driving around in the golf cart, tending the urns, looking at all the beautiful gardens, and appreciating each day I am at Cranbrook. I am reminded of the song sung by Louis Armstrong, "It's a Wonderful World." I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright, blessed day, the dark, sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. This event was something I will always treasure.
Wow, 44 years as a volunteer. Think about it. Rita, I think you need another round of applause. Okay, I'd like to welcome Greg Miller to the podium to present Cindy Miller. Wife. Greg?
So I see my students come up with their iPhones to make prepared remarks, and that's way too small for me. So I've got to bring this large iPad up here. My name is Greg Miller, and yes, I am the other half of the better half. I'm a teacher in the upper school, and I'll ask ahead to forgive some allusions I'll make to that profession. Cindy and I have known each other for nearly 50 years, and as much as I'd like to soften that by saying we met in elementary school, the reality is we met just down the road in Southfield, at Southfield Lathrop High School, to be exact. We met through her high school best friend, who, through the luck of the alphabet, sat just in front of me in chemistry class. That was long enough ago that first high school is not operating any longer, and I'm not willing to admit the years. And at the same time, it's not so long ago that my memory is unclear. I know Cindy's smart. In college, she double majored in math and accounting. But when I say smart, it's not so much in the academic sense as it is in the practical sense. Oh, sure, I doubt there are many in this room who could beat Cindy in a game of memory. You know, 52 cards face down, and you try to remember where you last saw the matching card rank that is now face up. And by the way, I should mention that the application to this skill evidenced by memory or by mastery of this game, let us suffice to say that I do not benefit. Over the years, I've had enough losses in this regard that I've learned there is zero to negative gain in any disagreement. Now, that's not to say that Cindy is always right. She's not, but she is never uncertain. Seriously, Cindy's superpower is not the standalone ability of recall, but more importantly, how things are connected. That is, how A or B is related to J or K. Connections are nearly invisible because they're not as evidently primary as the things that are being connected. Over the years, it's become increasingly evident to me that knowledge of connections is the critical piece to every endeavor we undertake. Inherently, we all know this. It's evidenced by the phrase, "It's about the journey, not the destination." Or in chemistry, while it may seem that what element is bonded to what element is the critical concern, it's largely about the energy binding those two together. This leads to Cindy's second superpower, which is knowing what questions to ask. As an educator, I know that this is not an inherent ability. Many people think that education is about content. In fact, it's about getting kids to be observant and hoping that their natural curiosity will prompt a question. What is taught are the structures which provide handrails to finding the answers. And when the right questions are asked, the best answers are found. The oldest tradition at Cranbrook School is the Christmas pageant. Cindy and I attended the event in our first December here, and the experience was profound as we both returned to the dorm, agreeing that this would be our last professional stop. Magic is magic because you can't qualify it. What constitutes magic is personal to the person, and we hope that the magic of Cranbrook, which has captivated us, is found by others. The bottom line is that it is the combination of her essence and Cranbrook's magic that motivates Cindy. President Emeritus Dom DeMarco, it is my pleasure to present to you Cindy Miller, recipient of the 2021 President's Award.
First, I'd like to congratulate my fellow recipients, Rita, Michael, and Carolyn. Oh, there you are. Indeed, it's a great honor to be recognized through this President's Award. Certainly, this is not why I work as hard as I do. Doing a job completely and thoroughly has always been in my blood. At the same time, there's something about Cranbrook that motivates me. I've lived in the Detroit metropolitan area most of my life. In fact, My family has been in this area since before Michigan became a state. If you've ever noticed the all-stone house at the northwest corner of Lasser and 14 Mile Road, that was built by a 4-time great uncle who built several other similar homes in the area. For the next 100 years, all my family farmed this area, even my dad, who ultimately became a carpenter. I suppose that's in part from roots such as this that the notion of hard work becomes part of one's DNA. At the same time, there must be something larger that drives any of us to do our best. For myself, Cranbrook has been that something larger. Interestingly, I grew up in a subdivision 5 miles down the road at 12 Mile Road called Cranbrook Village. As a child, I remember visiting CIS with my elementary school and with Girl Scouts. And later, while Greg and I were dating, we took many bicycle rides up to Cranbrook, exploring the public spaces at Cranbrook. After we were married, with an interest in independent schools, Greg accepted a position teaching at the Culver Academies, and I worked for a small family-run construction company handling the accounting side of the business. In 1983, Greg was offered a position teaching at Cranbrook Upper School in the science department, bringing us back home. Along with teaching, Greg also had a role in the boarding program. Believe me, when one lives in the dorm, it's a family involvement. We lived in a small apartment in Marquis dorm, overlooking the back of the Cranbrook Art Academy faculty housing. We got to know the boys in the dorm quite well, and in many ways, they felt like part of our family. It was not unusual having one or two unwinding in the evening in our apartment, playing with our dog and our daughter, Jennifer. Needing a bit more space after our daughter, Elizabeth, arrived, we moved to a bit larger apartment in Culture 3. While living in the dorms, I managed the student center, then located in the basement of the boys' dormitory. It was entirely student-run, but I managed the students and processed student charges to accounting. After 7 years in the dorm, we moved to the north end of campus onto Valley Way. Cranbrook has intertwined itself with our lives and our lives with Cranbrook. Our daughters attended school here from junior kindergarten through upper school. The Cranbrook was truly our backyard. We never tired of exploring the campus, and despite that increasingly familiarity, the magic of Cranbrook continued to grow. During that time, the idea of having a role in this place took hold, and I began looking at job postings that sounded interesting. In the summer of 2003, I applied for a position in the gift processing department and interviewed with the then Director of Advancement Services, Martha Mast. My colleague, Nicole Janakis, was also part of that team, and I'm delighted that both of you are here with us today. On the afternoon of August 14th that year, I was thrilled to receive a call from Ruth Manns offering me the position. We agreed that I would start on the 18th of August, on a Monday. I remember that day because about 30 minutes after the phone call offering me the position, the power went out. It was the start of the Northeast blackout. The gift processing team each day works on processing all gifts that are made to CEC, paying close attention that we honor the donor's intent for every gift. Days are filled with gift agreements, pledges, fund numbers, appeal codes, posting gifts into the development system, and reconciling with finance so that everything translates to the appropriate bucket in the general ledger. Along with many other projects, I prepare a variety of reports for the development team and reconcile and prepare month-end reports for finance, the development team, and senior staff. Since my start 18 years ago, Advancement Services has taken on 2 database conversions, the first to Senior Systems and most recently to Blackbaud's Razor's Edge. Of course, this work requires a team who are extremely devoted and knowledgeable. Sarah O'Brien, Nicole Janakis, Ann Rader, and Martha, with your institutional knowledge, gives us important context to our work. The intertwining of our lives and Cranbrook's continues as our oldest daughter, Jennifer, recently rejoined the admission office as Dean of Middle School Admissions. Jen and Jason's sons, Charlie and William, attend Brookside School in grades 3 and senior kindergarten. And of course, I have to mention our daughter Elizabeth and her husband Peter and their 3 boys, Graham, Crosby, and James, who live in Manhattan. Cranbrook's reach to Elizabeth continues there as she practices interior design and makes frequent alumni connections in New York. To say that I am thankful to call Cranbrook home and to be part of this magical place is an understatement. Thank you for this honor.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Cindy. In my time at Cranbrook, I've had the honor of working with both Greg and Cindy. And early in my chief operating officer days, Greg and I worked on revamping the faculty healthcare program and then worked on the faculty compensation program. A lot of these meetings were at 6 o'clock in the morning at the boys' middle school because of the faculty schedules. I remember those days fondly. I'm glad they're over. But it was just truly an honor to work with Greg and with his knowledge of Cranbrook and his knowledge of the faculty and their needs. I got to know Cindy very well at Cranbrook House. And honestly, gift processing sounds like it's fairly simple. It's nothing but fairly simple. It's, I think, one of the more difficult areas in all of Cranbrook in terms of getting donor gifts correctly registered to the donor intent and properly signed. And when Cindy became prominent and head of that group, it made my life so much easier. So Cindy, thank you so much for all of your hard work. And I know AC will appreciate you as much as I have. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Michael Stafford, Director of the Institute of Science, who will now introduce Michael Stahoek.
Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, I'm going to go off script just for a minute because I was sitting here momentarily looking over the lovely materials on all the honorees. Take a look at that picture of Michael Stahoek, everyone. That is the look of the cleanest cut, most trustworthy development advancement professional you will ever meet. And our donors think the same thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, but President Emeritus DeMarco, colleagues, guests, it's an honor and a privilege to introduce Michael Stahoek as one of the 2021 honorees for the President's Awards for Excellence here at Cranbrook. And today Michael is here with his wife Meredith. Their daughter Stella is a Cranbrook student, and he's got a lot of his colleagues. I think there's more development and advancement staff here than at the Association of Fundraising dinners that we always go to. Cranbrook is indeed fortunate to have Michael as part of this extraordinary community. He graduated from Michigan State in 1997 with a degree in psychology, and actually, you might not know this, a Master's of Social Work degree from MSU, so an MSW. After graduating from Michigan State, Michael worked in healthcare philanthropy in West Michigan for many years before accepting a position as the lead grant writer for the then Detroit Science Center. He started at Cranbrook in 2011 as you've read, as the Director of Institutional Giving at the Institute of Science, and he became the Institute's Director of Development in 2013. He accepted his current role as the Director of Grant Development and Administration for all of CEC in 2017. In his current role, Michael supports the prospecting, cultivating, drafting, and submission of Cranbrook's many, many grant requests to a wide range of foundations, friends, and supporters. And I can't tell you, in the years I have been at Cranbrook, every single year, we at least by probably a factor of 2 continue our grant prospecting, and it's really Michael's responsibility to keep it all straight. So it's not to be underestimated the scale of what he's involved in. But even more importantly, Michael tracks and develops all the necessary reporting requirements, making certain that we are accurate, that we're transparent, that we're timely, and that the outcomes our funders expect are actually met. And many of our funders don't deal with places like Cranbrook, and they don't deal with professionals like Michael. We hear over and over again the quality of the reporting of the gifts and grants that we're fortunate enough to receive is truly the gold standard. It's an accomplishment that Michael's extremely proud of, and all of the grant professionals and philanthropy professionals here at Cranbrook share in that pride. What makes Michael so extraordinary, however, is his degree of genuine caring for those that Cranbrook and our many funded programs serve, and the personal character that he reflects in all that he does, day in, day out. I recall when his resume first crossed my desk in 2011, his MSW degree and time spent in healthcare philanthropy immediately drew my attention. It was a time when the Institute was becoming more committed to engaging underserved audiences, and here was a young professional with a background focused on serving others. And it was an easy choice as to who to hire. And that outward focused perspective Michael brought to Cranbrook has only grown through the years. While I can't quote a specific figure for you, Michael's skills, perspective, and genuine degree of caring for those we serve has helped secure more than $7 million for Cranbrook's underserved focused programs throughout the last 8 years. If you ask, indeed. If you ask Michael, though, I suspect he'd be more interested in the lives his efforts have changed for the better, the communities that his work has enhanced, the school districts that his proposals have strengthened, and, most importantly, the families that his work has helped to flourish. In short, Michael Stahoek epitomizes the Cranbrook ideal of serving others, using the gifts and resources with which we've been entrusted. While his skills with the pen and his many tracking charts are undeniable, Michael's character, integrity, his work ethic, and his genuine empathy for those we serve and beyond make him truly unique. While his reports and follow-up may be viewed as the gold standard by our many funders and friends, I would argue that Michael himself is the gold standard, both in his role here at Cranbrook, as a colleague, and as a person. And as I said at the beginning, Cranbrook is indeed fortunate to have him playing for our team. And I am truly blessed to count him as a colleague and a valued and much admired friend. President Emeritus DeMarco, it is with great pleasure that I present Michael Stahoek as a recipient of the 2021 President's Award for Excellence at Cranbrook.
I was going to read it upside down, but so I didn't have an iPad. So thank you, Mike, for your most generous comments. I very much appreciate it. First and foremost, congratulations to Rita and Lindstrom, Cindy Miller, and Carolyn Stevens. Truly, each of you epitomize Cranbrook's dedication to excellence and community collaboration. I am happy to provide with you. Better? Should I start over? Thank you, Mike, for your. President Roche and President Emeritus DeMarco, you do me great honor this afternoon, and it is honor that by all rights I must share with many others. Consequently, I would like to recognize and congratulate the faculty, staff, and volunteers, including governors and trustees, who have been presented with the President's Award for Excellence since it was established by President Emeritus Dr. Lillian Bowder in 1990. Each of you has shown that, however quickly time hurries by, an enduring legacy of excellence is possible. I am compelled to thank my parents and friends, of course, along with my colleagues, many of whom are here this afternoon, as well as those who have influenced my life, and by their example and support have helped me learn and mature through the years. Please know that I am grateful. One person that I would like to especially acknowledge is my wife. I am saying this publicly, but these words are intended for her. Meredith, your constant and quiet strength, wisdom, dignity, and love, without a doubt, made me who I am. Many people have seen where I have been. Fewer know where I am going, and only you know where I am from. And I said I would make you cry, so I'm doing my best. As has often been said, even the most successful among us is standing on the shoulders of others who are more worthy. Therefore, I would like to acknowledge my indebtedness to Eileen Savage and Mike Stafford, who have made my time at Cranbrook meaningful. The tasks that you have shouldered and the work that you have done has made my path easier. It is a great responsibility to do that work well, and I hope to do the same for others. I would like to conclude by saying a few words about why I am proud to be associated with Cranbrook and why that pride is altogether fitting. I believe that people make Cranbrook what it is, and I am honored to join with those who, working alone or collaboratively, bring life to that which is best. Their commitment and creativity, their passions and dreams, and their efforts to enrich the lives of others is what makes Cranbrook a magical place. I hope to continue enjoying for many years all that Cranbrook has to offer and to add to its abundance. Once again, my sincerest thanks to AC and Dom, as well as my colleagues and friends for this award. It is my privilege and a delight to be so recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And Michael, gold standard indeed. So we're not speaking of, tens and hundreds of grants. We're speaking of like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grants, proposals that cross Michael's desk, and he keeps track of all of them. One of our Chief Advancement Officer, Eileen Savage, who's sitting right in front here, one of her key moves when she first came in, recognizing Michael's talent, was to grab him from the Institute of Science and move him to Cranbrook House so she could write grants for everyone. He could write grants for everyone. And Michael, thank you for all of your hard work. Really, really do appreciate it. So we do this in alphabetical order. And last but not least, I'd like to ask Tom Decrane, former Assistant Director of Schools and co-retiree, to come up and present Carolyn Stevens.
Well, good afternoon and congratulations to all of this year's recipients of the President's Awards of Excellence. What an amazing group of people. I'm honored to be introducing Carolyn and participating in this event. This is a very special event I've always found, and one that I've always attended since Lillian established it many years ago. I think what makes it most special in addition to the food, is the fact that it recognizes people who do some of the most difficult and hardest work that keep this institution functioning, but do so almost invisibly until something goes wrong. Now, these people don't want to become known for screwing up, so they work very hard to make sure they don't screw up. Just kidding. But seriously, this is not an award for not screwing up, but rather the recognition that brings people who are incredibly dedicated to contributing to that never-ending quest for excellence that has always been associated with Cranbrook and that Lillian spoke about so often, out of the shadows, and acknowledges that what they do is essential to making this place a place that we are all proud to work at. And one of those people is Carolyn Stevens. So who is Carolyn and what does she do at Cranbrook? Well, Carolyn is the parent of two CK alums, Noah and Olive, who are both here this evening, and had an early career as an architect. She's a gifted graphic designer and talented and creative software application specialist. She loves to tackle tough technical problems and pursues solutions to those problems with intelligence and tenacity. In her 15 years at Cranbrook, she has applied all those skills and adapted to meet the ever-evolving needs of the schools. But you ask, just what does she do so excellently to have been recognized for this award? Simply put, she is responsible for keeping one of the school's most critical infrastructure pieces, CranNet, running. I do not have time to fully explain the complexity and scope of what CranNet does. I expect that only 2 or 3 people in the schools or CEC do. And only one person, Carolyn, has the deepest understanding of how it actually works. CranNet is the heart of the school's data infrastructure, serving as the school's database of record, impacting every aspect of the school's operation and used by all the school's constituents. It's a big weight to carry. 20 years ago, when we originally christened the school's intranet CranNet, it was simply the school's private website that only students, parents, and teachers could access with a password. Though the name has not changed, its original function as an internal communication website is only a small fraction of the current function it serves. I tell you all this to bring some understanding of the work that Carolyn does and the dedication, time, and effort that she brings to her work to keep all of this running. A couple of years before the pandemic began, we embarked on a 3-year process of converting the student records and admission software from senior systems, which have been our database of record for 18 years, to Blackbaud and school admin. This was an enormous lift for 4 people who already had full-time day jobs. With Carolyn as the cornerstone for this project, they pulled it off, as I also often hear from capital projects, the term on time and on budget, with little or no disruption of the school's operation. However, this Herculean effort required Carolyn to often work 7 days a week and 14, 16, and 18-hour days. Then, as they were completing the conversion, the pandemic struck, and everyone with any technology responsibilities anywhere was swamped. We went to online learning, where Carolyn, along with the CEC IT department, pulled all-nighters to accommodate the technology needs to arose to support that endeavor. At the same time, Carolyn and Clay Matthews, the school's communication director, were developing a web microsite to keep the school's family updated on processes and policies regarding the pandemic. Next came the transition to hybrid learning and the implementation of additional software solution that continues today. I cannot overstate how critically important Carolyn's work has been to the operation of the schools prior to the conversion, during the conversion from senior systems, and throughout the pandemic, nor can I overstate my appreciation to have had her as a colleague. We spent many hours collaboratively problem solving to overcome the variety of what at times seemed insurmountable hurdles at all times of the day and night. Carolyn always went above and beyond with any work she was asked of, that was asked of her, and would always be completed with every I dotted and T crossed. However, there's been one ongoing issue with Carolyn, getting her to take time off and quit answering her emails at midnight. However, I'll admit she might have been getting mixed message in that, since, as I mentioned earlier, she's the only person who knows how everything works and how to fix it. And I'm thinking there may have been 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 or more times when she received a call for help when she tried to take a vacation. That reminds me, Carolyn, I discovered my login to CranNet is not working. So would you see if you could resolve that issue before you go home tonight? Yes, she also provides CranNet support for retirees and alumni. Carolyn, I'm so pleased that you've been selected to receive this award and offer the school's gratitude for the work you have done and will do, and my congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. President Emeritus Dom DeMarco, it is my pleasure to present to you Carolyn Stevens, recipient of the 2021 President's Award for Excellence.
Oh my goodness, it's hard to go last. First of all, congratulations to all my co-award recipients. It's just such an honor to be sharing this with you guys. Tom, thank you for such a heartfelt introduction. I didn't think you were going to make me tear up, but you know. Anyway, when I first learned that I was receiving this award, my very first thought was, how did Dom narrow it down to just 4 people in this year of all years? So I can tell you, while this award might have my name on it, everything about getting this school up and running during a pandemic was a team effort. So I would like to spend my 5 minutes thanking the team who made this possible. First of all, thank you to AC for her commitment to in-person learning by new pandemic rules. You are the one who forced us to think and do well beyond our comfort zones. Clay Matthews, I feel like we have worked together for eons. I know sometimes you say, quote, "You have no idea what I do except that it's important." So thank you for having faith and rolling with all the changes with grace as I got pulled away to work on things other than communication projects. To Tom Decrane, our truly fearless leader. Tom listened with patience to every crazy idea we had, sat through numerous meetings, and helped us find the way through the woods. Not that we always listened to him, but I can now admit, since he's retired, Tom, you were right about more things than I ever gave you credit for. To the wonderful team at CECIT, my gosh, if all of you didn't already have President's Awards for Excellence, every single one of you would have gotten another one these past 2 years. Thank you always, Jen Rivard, for your partnership and your unflappable nature. We would not have gotten very far without you. A very special shout out to Joe Rosen, who spent countless hours trying to help us figure out how to connect Blackbaud and Microsoft Teams. Many late night team chats, trying to look at tens of thousands of lines of numbers. And when most people would have thrown in the towel, Joe just kept insisting we were close and we would find a way and we would make it work. One of the very best things about Cranbrook are the friendships that we make. So to my colleagues, my fellow Lotto Club members, my sisters, Ann Nesbitt and Renee Genuine, there is no way we would have pulled off what we did without the two of you. You deserve this award, like right up here alongside me. I am buying the next round of Lotto tickets, and we will get to Turks and Caicos, I promise. To my friends, Beth and Lisa, thank you for my sanity. You were always there to listen and support and work through some of the softer, more unsolvable problems this pandemic brought. And I am more grateful than ever to have friends like you. I have a couple family members who can't be here. My little brother Bobby, my Aunt Ann and Uncle Bob, who are kind of now my de facto mom and dad. I'm very sorry that they could not make the trip, but I'm grateful that this is being recorded so I can send them the link. I know they're here in spirit. To my kids, Noah and Olive. Olive was my work from home buddy because when college closed, she got sent home too, so we had to kind of juggle who was having what online thing and where and what part of the house. And she got into a habit of passing me notes when I was on yet another Teams call with Mr. Decrane or Mrs. Genuine or Mrs. Nesbitt. And thank you to my insightful son, Noah, who remarked, "You should work from home more often because you win awards." The two of you mean the world to me, and I know that sometimes this job takes me away from time with you, but know that no matter what I'm doing or what I'm working on, the end game is always you guys. And finally, to my mom and dad, who are not with us anymore, they would have been, sorry. They would have been so proud. My dad always told me I should go into something techie, so I guess now I have to admit to him that he was right too. So thank you, Dom and AC, for this wonderful honor. It's my greatest pleasure to work for the Cranbrook educational community. Thanks.
So, Carolyn, thank you for bringing up the question on how the selection process worked and how we sort of picked, this year picked you for the President's Award recipient. So we look at the 4 recipients tonight. And first, the House and Gardens Auxiliary Team with Rita leading the way, keeping our gardens open right through the pandemic. Think about the excellence around that. We can talk about Cindy Miller, who recorded more gifts last year, probably in the history of Cranbrook. We had a record fundraising year during the pandemic. Thank you for that, Cindy Miller. Michael. Michael received grants during the pandemic from foundations that never in their history have supported scholarship. Never. And Michael and the advancement team, working really hard with certain foundations, enabled a lot of Cranbrook students whose parents could not work during the pandemic to continue to come to Cranbrook schools. And Carolyn. So how do you define excellence? So we shut down Cranbrook right before the pandemic started. AC had planned our 2-week spring break right as the pandemic hit, so thank you, AC, for doing that. And in 2 weeks, we were up and running with virtual learning. Think about that, 2 weeks. And the excellence of Cranbrook, and many of the people in here, kept Cranbrook open last year, where most public institutions, most colleges were doing virtual living. And in many instances, hopefully not all of them, those were lost years. Carolyn, thank you for the work you did to help, and the team at the schools, to help us go to virtual learning and then get back up and running with a hybrid learning so that our children and young people in Asia could continue to learn because they couldn't travel here while Cranbrook schools were open. So I would tell you that's how you define excellence. Incredible journey the last couple years, and obviously the last decades here. So I'd like to thank you so much. As I mentioned in the very beginning, it's been my honor to serve Cranbrook as its president, and first as its chief operating officer, and to be part of something and someplace so special. Congratulations to this year's recipients, and thank you for everything you do for Cranbrook. Before we go, I'd like to thank the following people, and I'd ask you to hold your applause until the end. Lillian Bauder for establishing and promoting a way to honor excellence at Cranbrook and for sharing insight about this wonderful event. To our presenters, Judy Lindstrom, Greg Miller, Michael Stafford, and Tom Decrane, sort of retired. I understand that very well, Tom. Our staff, Rhonda Reed, Denise Collier, Patty Carey, and Eric Franke, who miraculously put this event together. So happy to be with you in person. To our facilities, capital projects, safety and security, housekeeping staff, and of course, Chartwells. I'd like to close the program with additional thoughts by Dr. Barter. So I quote, "And so it began, and it continues to come together year after year as this wonderful celebration that renews the understanding for us that at the heart of this remarkable community is its people, each of you. This celebration recognizes you through its honorees and thanks you. The best traditions renew the values of a place. This evening clearly and wonderfully does so." I would invite the recipients to take the flowers that are at your table home with you tonight. As you enter the dining hall, there were mats on the table that we ask each of you to sign. These will be framed along with the photograph from today's event. Because we're unable to open up this event to the entire community, we will be inviting members of the Cranbrook community to come together at designated locations to sign the mats before they are framed. This is a wonderful keepsake for the recipients, so I encourage you to do so. I'd like to wish you a good night, and thank you all for coming. Please be safe as you travel home, and stay in touch. Good night.